Well, let's see now a game I've played not so long ago during the team competition. I've played against Viktor Laznicka from Czech Republic. And well, I prepared a very interesting line. I got a nice position, but then I started to just play horrible. I started to miss ideas, strategical ideas, tactics. Well, basically I missed a little bit of everything. But I was still in the game. He gave me some chances to come back, and even then I didn't grab these chances. So I want to show this and remark sometimes that you need to be aware of the chances till the end of the game, because even when you think you're lost, it's possible that you still have some ideas to try to save the game. And also I keep the score sheet here so we can check a little bit if I spend the time correctly, because this is also important. If you reach move 35 without time, then you're gonna blunder very often. Okay, played c4, c6. He plays many different lines, so this was one of the possible ideas. I decided to play a solid game today, this day. So, well, c6, d4, d5, cd5. I haven't played this very often, but it's a line you can play because it's super solid. Even if you're not the biggest expert, it's not gonna be very bad. So cd5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop f4. This is pretty normal. I'm playing, of course, very fast till here. Knight c6, e3, a6. This is the most common line nowadays. And I've played this move, bishop e2 here. It's quite an interesting move, actually. You don't want the black bishop from c8 to develop to g4. This happens often. For example, if you play bishop d3, then black often plays bishop g4, and then they want to develop with e6, and this coordinates very well. And that is the main idea of playing a6 one move earlier. a6 is controlling the b5 square, and it's preparing black for the reaction knight a5 after queen b3, so you can go out with the bishop. But this bishop e2 move, it's quite interesting because you stop bishop g4 and you prepare after bishop f5 to play this idea g4, and it's very tricky line actually, because you need to choose where to go with your bishop, and it's not an easy decision actually. Because, for example, let's say you go to g6, then white can try to play something like h4, and then this tricks with h5 or g5, queen b3 sometimes. Now the bishop cannot help on the defense, he cannot go back to d7, so it's a little bit tricky, this position. And of course, when I played bishop e2 instantly, my opponent didn't want to allow me to go into this sharp line. So he started to think for some time, try to find something else to play. Of course, he could just simply play e6, but then the bishop on c8 will be very passive, and he didn't want just to suffer in this strategically a little bit worse position. Just simply knight f3, and white is slightly better here. And in fact, if you're going to play a6, it's better to do it one move earlier, so you don't play a6 and probably you just play b6. Because now a6 doesn't really help you. If you play b5, then the c5 square will be very weak. And even if you manage to play bishop b7, still your position will be a little bit worse. So after bishop e2, he didn't want to play bishop f5, he cannot play bishop g4. Another move could be something like g6, but this also looks very pleasant for white. Simply with something like h3 and then knight f3, and this bishop on g7 is hitting on a wall. This d4 structure, e3 d4 structure, is super tough, and it's going to be very passive for black in the end. So g6 is also not very impressive. And well, so knight e4, and here I totally understood that I forgot to check knight e4, and it's a pity to make an interesting move, and not to have checked it at least carefully enough to check at least his first possibility. And well, I had to start to think here, which is not very pleasant. But on the other hand, I knew 94 would not be very good because computer wasn't suggesting it in the first 3-4 moves. So well, I decided to try to play normal. I played knight f3. Of course, 94 was another interesting move, but I wasn't sure how to play here. But it turns out that a3 is a very strong move, trying to stop a possible check from the f8 bishop to b4. So you stop this check, and it looks like white is slightly better here. Anyway, I played knight f3. It cannot be a bad move. He played knight c3. It's the idea of knight e4. I took bc3, and I was pretty sure I'm slightly better here. He played knight a5. I was a little bit surprised by his moves, but on the other hand, I wasn't very familiar with this position and with the ideas of this position. So how much time did I have here? After knight f3 I had 1 hour 24, so it means I spent only 6 minutes, so far it's good. But here, for castle, I've spent another 6 minutes. And it's the most common move in history. I mean, castling, it looks normal. Actually, there is a very interesting move to play bishop d3 to avoid now bishop f5, which seems to be the best move after castle. But this wasn't even the idea of my opponent. So I played castle in the end because I wasn't really sure what I'm doing. I said, okay, let's just castle and see what he wants to do. And he played e6. And here, computer gives me a very nice advantage with white. And I played in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, I think it's a decent amount. So far, I'm managing the time pretty well. The problem is I'm not finding the best moves. And I totally confused the best plan here. I played knight d2, but this is far from being the best plan. I was worried about my pawn on c3, because we'll be in a little bit of trouble after bishop d7 and rook c8. But this turns out to be not the priority of the position. I could have played much better with bishop d3, for example, let's say bishop e7, and now e4. And I have a very nice development with very active pieces. His knight on a5 is far from the game so far. For example, let's say castle, and here, for example, something like rook e1 or queen c2. And playing active is the best idea, and not being afraid of this weakness, because before this weakness turns out to be important, there is still lots of things to come. So I didn't need to hurry to get rid of this weakness. Anyway, I played knight d2, which is not so good. So, and here he played bishop d7, and of course I managed to get rid of the weakness. And it still looks very good for white, slightly better at least. He took dc4, knight c4, knight c4, bishop c4, and now he played rook c8. It's a normal move. Another move could be to play simply bishop c6. But anyway, he played rook c8. It's move 15 already. I've played lots of moves fast because that was easy. Here I thought for a lot actually, and this actually means I've played bishop d3, which is a very natural move, but I didn't really understand very well what's going on here. I've spent like 12 minutes thinking in this position. Well, there is not so many options. Bishop d3 looks totally natural to me, and well, yes, it's normal, but he played bishop c6 even, which was surprising for me. I expected bishop e7 more than this. When he played bishop c6, again, I started to think a lot because I didn't expect bishop c6. So sometimes try to be practical. Sometimes here, I mean, the difference between bishop d3, bishop b3, bishop e2, queen b3 or something, everything seems to be playable and not with a big difference with each other. So try to be practical, don't spend 12 minutes with this move, because then what happens is you play bishop d3, you are very proud of your move, and then your opponent plays bishop c6 and you didn't even dream about it. And again, now I felt strange about my position. I didn't like it so much. And I could have played anything quickly, like rook c1, which is a very decent move, for example. Instead of that, I was trying to play something creative, something interesting, because I thought my position should be better, but I didn't know how, and in fact, it's not actually that much better. I thought here for how long? Like 18 minutes, mamma mia. 18 minutes for a random move here. I played bishop e5, which is actually a little bit wrong. Bishop e5. I was feeling not comfortable at all with the position. Now after bishop e5, my opponent played pretty fast, bishop d6, which is a natural move, of course. And here the problem is white cannot take on g7. This I have seen, of course, because rook g8, and now g2 is hanging. And, well, white is losing already, so bishop g7 is very bad. I've played f4. Probably the best move was to realize that bishop e5 was a stupid move, and now just simply to change bishops. Change, and now to play something like rook c1 and try to equalize the game, try to make a draw and go home. Instead of that, which was a very, very clever idea, I tried to play something interesting. I played f4, which is not so bad, but all the following moves are totally the wrong idea. So I played like 6, 7, 8 moves bad in a row at least. I played at f4, he goes castle, and now I'm already slightly better, but I keep doing moves that are not so good. Queen h5, and now my opponent plays simply f5, and now, well, his bishop on c6 is much better than my bishop on d3 because it has a place to protect himself. He can go to d5, for example, and my bishop on d3 has no square. I will be dreaming about changing this bishop at any moment. If I manage to change this bishop, then I will almost equalize, but this is going to be very tough to do. So after f5, I've seen f5 before, but I thought I could survive here somehow with a move like bishop c4, which is actually a decent move. He played queen d7. Now I need to be careful sometimes with tricks like bishop g2. And here I played queen g5. This is a mistake already. Probably it was the time to think about coming back, to say to yourself and to your opponent, okay, this plan with queen h5, this was totally wrong. It's time to come back and try to make a draw and try to equalize at least. But well, it's not going to be easy because I'm already slightly worse. Because his pieces are a little bit better. His bishop on e4, for example, will be good. He'll have a pawn majority on the queen side. My extra pawn on the center is doing nothing, basically. So, but at least my pieces are there and I can try to equalize at some point. But queen g5 just makes no sense. And, well, the problem is that I really missed what is happening next. He took on e5, d5. This was what I expected. And I thought here, after d5, I'm gaining this square for the rook to play rook d6. So I was trying to play rook d1 and rook d6. And then my bishop on c4 will be very good. Will be attacking the e6 pawn, and I'll be active enough at least to equalize. But here I totally missed this idea, very beautiful and very deep idea, bishop a4. And now it's unpleasant for white, because never again I can play rook d1, because this bishop is covering. the d1 square. And it's also hard to bring back my queen, because my queen on g5 is out of play totally. His rook on c8 is very strong, and he's winning a tempo with rook c4. And probably here my best chance was to play just bishop b3. He takes on b3, I take, and he plays basically any move, rook fd8 for example. And my position is bad. It's really bad, but well, I could try to survive here somehow. It's a little bit worse, but it's not the end of the world. But instead of that, I tried to just come back with the bishop. And I'm, by the way, sacrificing a pawn, which was not such a great idea, actually. He played queen d2, I go bishop f3, and he takes on e3 with check. King h1. Well, I thought my bishop on f3 at least will protect me if he comes with a rook c2 or something. But on the other hand, there is not much ideas for white, and it can get a little bit passive also. I don't have any place to bring my rooks. The c and the d files are blocked. So basically it's very hard to play here. He plays another good move, is rook c7, just to protect also the e7 square, so I cannot play some queen e7 at some point, and also, of course, protecting b7 pawn. I played h4 here. Well, it's a natural move, I think. I want to play h5 at some point, and I want to have some space for my king. h6 was maybe a little bit better for him, but he went just rook fc8. It's also interesting. Rook a e1. Okay, my position is objectively lost already, but well, I kept playing, of course, because it's a team competition, and I'm not going to resign just with a pawn down. So, well, he played queen a3, played king h2. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here, but the king is a little bit better on h2 than on h1. And at some point I want to play h6, well, h5, h6, or provoke h6 from him. So if I provoke h6, I can go queen g6 sometimes and create some little threats at least. He played b5. Maybe b5 is not the best move, but still it's a logical move, of course. If he takes on a2, it's also a logical move. Rook a1, queen c4, and after rook fc1, he can play bishop c2. But this is a move that we humans don't like to make, because you can miss some trick here and you can get in trouble. But in fact, black is totally winning here. So he played b5. I played bishop d1. This is actually a good move. I thought it's time to get rid of these bishops and try to activate my rooks, try to bring a rook to d1 and to d6, and to at least play against his king. His king in g8 is not so safe, so if I can manage to create some counterplay, I can try to save the game. He played queen a2, I took on a4, queen a4 is normal. He tries to keep both pawns connected, of course. And now I played rook c1. It's a little bit tricky, this move, because I'm sacrificing a rook, but if he takes it, it's a draw. Because now I have some kind of perpetual check. Queen d8, king f7, queen d7, king f8, and check, and it's draw. And if he tries to escape, he might even lose. King g6, queen e6, king h5, queen f5, king h6, queen g5. So this little trick is nice, but he played, of course, h6, which is much better. And now, well, I cannot go queen g6 or something, because now he will take the rook, and now there is no draw. He will go king h8, take, and queen e8, king h7, there is no more checks. And he's in fact threatening queen f4 check winning, so I have no time to do anything. So I've thought about it, and my idea was to give the queen here with rook c7. If he takes, then there is queen d8 and I'm winning. So he has to take hg5. I take on c8. He plays king h7. Of course, this king is safer on h7. If he goes king f7, then h5 is a beautiful move. And now the king is in some kind of jail, and at some point I can try to bring my rooks and give mate. For example, the only move actually is queen d4, rook fc1, queen f4, king g1, and queen d4 is a draw. It's a nice line, but it's the only move for black even here. If some other move like queen e4, for example, then rook d1 is already winning for white. So he needs to be careful, but king h7 is the correct move. I took hg5, and here he's still winning, but he needs to play very precise. And the problem is, like, he didn't like this move king g6, because I can play rook c6, and then the e6 pawn is hanging, and it seems like white has some counterplay here. Still, queen a2 will be very unpleasant for white, but, well, rook d1, and there is some little chances to save the game here. But instead of that, he went b4, which is a very natural move, because he's stopping this pawn. I mean, sorry, he's stopping the rook c6 move. And he wants to protect e6, and on the other hand, he's also running with the pawn, which is very useful, of course. And here, still had like a lot of time. Well, not a lot, but should be enough. I'm on move 34, and I have something like 8, no, well, yes, 7, 8 minutes I think I had here. And I played very fast rook f3. And after this move is totally lost. Rook f3 is losing. You can try to find yourselves a move, but it's not very complicated actually, because the problem of rook f3 is that after king g6, I don't have any other threats, any counterplay. So of course the move was, instead of rook f3, to give g6 check. He takes on g6, and now rook f3. And now the great idea that I think I've seen it at some point, but I didn't realize it's so important. It's that, for example, after queen d7, I can go rook f8, and now I'll give a perpetual check with my rook g3 and rook h3, and it will be a perpetual check and a draw. And to escape this game with a draw will be extremely good, because I've played so many bad moves that making a draw will be a great result. But sadly, I didn't do it, and I played rook f3, and when I played it, I was already like, what am I doing? I could have played g6 in advance. Of course, he immediately played king g6, and now I realized that basically I can resign already, because there is no counterplay, and with his queen and these two passed pawns, I just cannot stop him. So basically, I lost the game very quickly, because there is nothing to do here. Even here, instead of rook f3, rook b8 was even very interesting as well. Because now after king g6, I could go rook b6, and it's tricky, because this e6 pawn is hard to defend. So rook f3 was losing, and I played it immediately, almost, like in 1 minute or something. And, well, so I had to feel that this moment is important, because I was maybe too confident already that it looks like an interesting position already after what I had, which was totally lost. But after rook f3, king g6, and this is over. And here, when he played king g6, I realized this is over. Okay, I played rook d3, b3. Now he's threatening just to take on f4, so I have to protect this pawn. Because if f4 falls, everything will fall. E5, G5, everything. So I played King G3. He went B2. Queen B4 is winning as well. But okay, B2 is good enough, I think. Rook B8, and now he played Queen E4. And the problem is if I go away with the rook, there is lots of tricks now, checks, all kinds of annoying things happening. Because, for example, Rook D1, Queen E3 check, and then he takes on B4 with check. So I tried Rook D6. He gave check on E3, King H2, Queen F4 check, and I resigned. So this is what I call a terrible game. I've played like 8 bad moves at least, and my opponent played pretty decent actually. But even here, I could have saved the game if I would be a little bit more focused and move 33, 34. I played Rook F3, and if I go G6, it's draw, and it's an easy draw actually. So just keep fighting, keep searching for options, because sometimes it's a little bit difficult. You don't feel the game very well, you do something strange, you get a lost position. But there are players out there, like let's say Karyakin, who is fighting like a maniac, who is really tough in defense, and this gives him over the year, this gives him a lot of points. So try to be tough. Yeah, that's the plan. Try to be tough. Okay, thanks for watching.